'em up, lay it down just like Matt and Mari. Wrestling RHAPUp's gonna make it sorry. Feeling like The Rock cause I'm driving the Ferraris. And we coming every week and it's feeling like a party. Will like Ric Flair, huh? Showing out like Bianca Belair, huh? Best podcast, fluctuate in the air, huh? Roman rings and we win it, don't care, huh? No cap. Throw 'em up, lay it down just like Matt and Mari. Wrestling RHAPUp's gonna make it sorry. Feeling like The Rock cause I'm driving the Ferraris. And we coming every week and it's feeling like a party.
Hello, everyone, and welcome to the Wrestling RHAPUp. I'm your host today, Matt Scott. Unfortunately, Mari Forth isn't with me today, but this is the Wrestling RHAPUp, and we're diving in with 3 exciting guests. I don't know what to do today without Mari. I feel so alone, but that's going to change in a second because, wait, we have not Mari, but Ari making his way to the podcast. He's not Mari. He's not sorry. He loves Mario Party. You know him from all sorts of fan-made Survivor games, including Survivor Philadelphia Head vs. Heart. Please welcome Ari Ferrari.
Oh, give me a hell yeah. I'm not sorry. I'm not Mario. Oh, I'm not even Mario. It's Ari Ferrari. We're here to party on the road to WrestleMania. Matt,
there we go. Beautiful.
Thank you for having me.
Beautiful to see you.
We're here.
How are
with
you
an amazing
Ari?
Stable on the road to WrestleMania.
How's it going, Ari? How's it going? Before we introduce the rest of the stable, I was feeling very lonely, by the way, until you popped up.
Well, some would say best day ever, but let's get to it. We've been catching up on I would feel some of the best work we've seen in WWE a couple of years. All right, so I'm really digging into what's been happening here with God Mode.
Well, speaking of modes, this person has, I'm not even going to try, making her way to the podcast, hailing from Philadelphia, Pennsylvania. She's a podcaster, a doctor. You hear her on post-show recaps, covering shows like Severance, The White Lotus, and of course, you also might know her from Survivor Philadelphia Season 1, Dr. Applebee's, aka Dr. Amanda Rabinowitz.
Wow. Thank you so much for having me back on the Wrestling RHAPUp, Matt. I guess this means that I didn't embarrass myself too much the first time I was on the show. I don't really know much more about wrestling. I watch the clips that you send me and I try to follow along. So hopefully I'll add some color to the conversation today, but I'm excited to get into this with our esteemed panel here.
Yeah, and I know if anything, you're always there to help us, especially with any brain injury related information, which definitely has me questioning my wrestling fandom at times. But who knows? Maybe we won't go there today.
I didn't see a lot of blunt force trauma to the head in this round of clips. So I think that maybe they listened to my last appearance. Do you think that's what happened, Matt?
They definitely did. Yeah, all of the wrestlers did, and they're thankful for that. And thanks for coming back. Didn't know we could get you back after all of the blunt force trauma and all, but speaking of, I can't do the transitions to the next guest. It doesn't work with you all. So I'm just going to say, introducing a first-time guest to the podcast, hailing from the Big Apple himself. He's a guitarist for the band Forsakken. He is a martial artist, a philanthropist, too obsessed with fishdom. He's the most die-hard hangbanger in Wrestling RHAPUp history. And of course, you know him from the CBS show Survivor, the season Cook Islands. Please welcome the one, the only, Billy Garcia.
Oh, thank you. My prize isn't $1 million. My prize is I'm on Wrestling RHAPUp.
That's right. That's right.
What a legend. What a legend.
That's right. What a legend. We're thankful to have you here, Billy. Thanks for joining as a first-time guest. Of course, you know, you are one thing I know, and one reason that I wanted you to be here is because I know that you have a history with wrestling. You're, of course, a wrestling fan. We love that Survivor wrestling crossover. But I just wanted to ask you, Billy, for the listeners, like, what is your history with wrestling?
Actually, before I ever did Survivor, I was trained by WWE Hall of Famer, the unpredictable Johnny Rodz, and I spent 11 years on the indie circuit as a pro wrestler. And I ended my career actually doing a series of celebrity matches against other survivors, including Johnny Fairplay, Mookie Lee from Fiji, whom the internet claimed I almost murdered. I don't know. I beat the crap out of him. My tag team partner was Lee Stewart from the AWA. This was actually one of the last AWA shows, and he was dressed as Jeff Probst, which was awesome. And we beat Mookie Lee and the Patriot. I got to pin the Patriot, and then I did a celebrity battle royal as my very last match, where it was won by Maven, but one of the final twos was Mike Scoopin, also from my season. I think I made it to the final 6 or something like that.
Damn, you have so many.
Did you get to
Mike
beat
Scoopin had all his legal problems?
Did you get to beat the shit out of Mike Scoopin, Billy? Because then you are a true American hero.
Actually, we did a very Survivor thing, in that we all the survivors got together and started throwing people out together. So no, I didn't turn on Mike Scoopin.
Next time.
But
the
actual pro wrestlers rallied. They actually rallied and they started taking us out.
Wow. Look, there's so many stories, Billy. So much wrestling history. You have your own road stories. And so maybe as we go along through the clips, maybe you'll have some different takes to throw out there. We're going to move on from the Scoopin' talk for now, but I'm glad he didn't win the Battle Royal. And speaking of Battle Royals, wrestling has battle royals. Ooh, those transitions are really hitting today. And speaking of wrestling, we're going to kind of dive in this week, as always, and go through the highlights of the week and everything else. But at the top of the podcast, I just want to encourage people, first and foremost, to subscribe to the Wrestling RHAPup. You never know who's going to show up. You never know what the combination of guests will be. You never know when Michael Scoopin or Mookie or anybody really is going to come up on the podcast, which we love. And so if you're a fan of wrestling, if you're a fan of the shenanigans, subscribe at robhasawebsite.com/wrestling feed. And by the way, Billy, I just want to ask you, because I didn't look at this again. When was the last time that you were on Rob as a podcast?
Oh man, now you're really testing my memory here. I don't think my memory's that good. It's been at least 5 years.
That's right.
Billy Claus. That used to be a holiday tradition.
Yes, it was. And then I don't know. I think people came to their senses.
Bring Billy Claus back.
You know what though, and I think the beautiful thing about it is, like, you're making your grand return. We've seen lots of iconic wrestlers like do the same thing at different points. So you know what, like, you have to go away for a little bit in order to make that big comeback. And I'm not even going to try to do a segue and a transition, because the outline of everything doesn't line up too well with big comebacks. But what I will say is we did just have the Elimination Chamber show this past weekend. I'm not going to go through, and we're not going to go through talking about that piece by piece. If you want to see what happened at WWE's Elimination Chamber Premium Live event, check out me and my co-host Mari covering it on our recap show this past Sunday, last weekend. But so we had Elimination Chamber happen. It was awesome, exciting times. now we are on the road to WrestleMania officially. No stops on the road to WrestleMania. It's coming up April 1st and 2nd. We're seeing a lot of different matches come together. And one of the stories, and really the story that I wanted to start with, just diving in, because it's really the biggest story in the WWE right now, is the story of Sami Zayn and his feud with Roman Reigns and everything else that's going on around that, basically, which is sort of all over the place at this point. But I'm really curious, just as we start this out, to turn to you, Dr. Amanda, because this is your introduction to the Sami Zayn Roman Reigns story. Mari and I have talked about it ad nauseum on the podcast. But I'm so curious, like, overall, from everything you saw this week with Sami Zayn, before we kind of get into breaking it down, any impressions, thoughts, takeaways, feelings, emotions?
Okay, so he's
vibes?
supposed to be like lovable underdog. I'm guessing that we see like scrappy underdog. We see like his wife that's very sympathetic, like she's at home with the baby, overcome by his win. But then he's like kind of like a doofus butthead too. Is that right? Am I reading this correctly?
Anything you read is correct.
Wow, now that is a great comfort to me. Yeah, so like I guess like so Roman Reigns, like I know that the Bloodline is this thing, like they're like actually related, right? Please correct me when I get something wrong.
Yes,
and they're like
correct.
they're like dynasty, like very powerful, like very decorated. So like Roman Reigns is like the Goliath, and then we have Sami Zayn is the like David here who's like taking him on, and I feel like we're supposed to root for him. And like when I saw his wife, I was like, oh, that's like good, like I am rooting for him. But then like I don't know, I he's not like really doing it for me. Like I'm kind of not 100% on his side. Like I said, I got kind of butthead vibes. I was watching this with like the lens of, you were going to ask me what survivors everybody was, and I was getting like, is this like a Rupert or a Ben Driebergen? Like I feel like he's supposed to be fan favorite, but like I don't know if he really is fan favorite. That's my initial impression.
That's really interesting. I'm curious, Ari, for your thoughts on that. And it's cool to have you thinking of it with the survivor lens, because why not? But yeah, Ari, I'm curious of your thoughts going into this story. No one wants to hear me talk about all this stuff anymore.
You want to hear my thoughts about the single most dramatic thing I've ever seen in my entire life?
Wow.
These people are putting on, like, I'm in tears listening to this. Like, there are betrayals. Bloodline. We got a family, right? Then we've got a third brother who doesn't even have the same last name as the other guys. Everyone has a different surname, but they're all family. It's so dramatic. I love it. Now, Dr. Amanda, you're like, who are we comparing Sami Zayn to? All right, what do you think about this?
Yeah.
Imagine John Cochran with muscles.
Oh, it's well, I mean, I see the ginger connection. That's certainly very strong.
A little self-deprecating.
Sure.
There's a sense of arrogance in there if you dig deep hard enough.
So do you think that this is like on his journey, that like maybe we're seeing him go from South Pacific Cochran and then blossoming into our
TV writer,
favorite,
into a TV writer.
No, like I mean, like we see him, like is that eventually like what we're gonna see is him ascend to being the winner that he was in?
Yeah, it's like Ozzy's giving him the chair, like turn on coach. I can see
that.
This is over the top. This is a lot, and
over the top rope.
Look at that.
That's a wrestling reference. I got that.
Billy, I'm curious for your thoughts. Like, what do you think of the Sami Zayn storyline?
Oh, I love it. I feel like it's probably the best storyline we've had this century, in my opinion. Yeah, it's compelling. They've taken their sweet time telling this story. That's been one of my criticisms of recent WWE before the change, was that the storylines seemed to happen. They're a tag team. They're broken. They have a match. Moved on. Like all within like a few weeks. So I felt like all the stories were being fast forwarded and rushed. And then we get this, which is they've taken the better part of a year to tell this story, which is awesome. How could you not be invested when a year of your life is being spent on this soap opera? So I love it. And I just have to say they picked the perfect guy in Sami Zayn. I don't think just anybody could have pulled this off.
Yeah, I think this is all really interesting. And I think, Amanda, your takes on this are fascinating because you're really just taking this in with the context of this week. Which
I promise I have no other context.
No.
Yeah.
I think, though, that there's something to that where, you know, the storyline has been an amazing one leading up to this point. And there's so much nuance and so many layers to it. So one of the things that we saw just as Monday Night Raw happened was that, so, of course, just to recap for those who missed the Elimination Chamber, Sami Zayn fought Roman Reigns in the main event. Amanda, you referenced the clip from, I think, WWE's YouTube of Sami Zayn's wife, who was just really emotional about the moment, not even in a character perspective, but from the perspective of, like, here he is getting this massive opportunity to perform in front of tens of thousands of people in his home crowd. And which, by the way, I loved that clip of her just talking about, like, oh my gosh, I was whisper screaming and not trying to wake up the baby, really, but I was so excited for him. And so, like, there's that emotion that she's feeling. There's the crowd's emotion. Sami, of course, lost at Elimination Chamber to Roman Reigns after some shenanigans. And one of the things that happened that sets up what we see on Raw is that Kevin Owens came out and essentially helped his longtime friend slash rival slash complicated, like on Facebook, they have it's complicated as their relationship status with each other, because like he comes out, helps Sami not get beaten up more, and then on Raw, essentially, Sami's like, hey, KO, we need to work together because we have a shared goal of taking out the Bloodline, which Kevin Owens was not really for and on board with, which was fascinating. And so
why was that? Like, why wouldn't he join up with Sami to take down the Bloodline?
I mean, I think like a lot of it is just their recent history, even with Sami being part of the Bloodline for the better part of the last year. You know, Sami joined with the Bloodline and even fought against Kevin Owens. So despite the fact that Sami and Kevin Owens have like 20 years of friendship and history together, Kevin Owens doesn't necessarily trust him. And Kevin Owens also is just like someone who's able to do it himself and do it alone. And so I think that's a lot of where that energy came from. So
if your friend starts hanging out with other friends and you want to start hanging out with me again, you're gonna have to wait a little bit. You want to hang out again,
or else you're gonna hit me with a chair.
Yeah, and handcuff you to ropes.
Oh my gosh, I don't know.
I'll say this, man. I think this Bloodline storyline is easily on my top 5, probably in my top 3 greatest wrestling storylines of all time. So, or at least within my lifetime.
I mean, probably some of the best. And like, that's what a lot of people have. I've heard a lot of people say like, oh, this is the best thing ever. Like, Billy, what for you makes this the greatest or one of the greatest wrestling storylines that you've ever seen?
For this storyline to work, there had to be 20 years of history between Sami Zayn and Kevin Owens. So that's something you couldn't fake. That had to have really happened. This is why the Andre Hogan story is not on my top 5, because that 15-year undefeated streak wasn't really a 15-year undefeated streak. Like, if you watch wrestling, you would know. He was like, wait a minute, this guy lost in the AWA like a ton of times. How is he undefeated for 15 years? And so with the whole Kevin Owens and Sami Zayn, like, they came up together through the Indies. They came up through the NXT together. They arrived at the main roster almost simultaneously. They feuded. They tag teamed. The history is so real. And then the Bloodline, they really are related. Like, again, they're pro wrestling royalty. They're probably the top family in pro wrestling. as far as generations upon generations. I mean, I was a huge Umaga mark. A huge Umaga mark.
Umaga.
Oh my gosh, I feel like I need to like pull up pictures of it. But yes, like there's so much history, so much kind of going into the backstory. And by the way, I would say if folks are not already watching on YouTube, what are you doing? You should be watching our beautiful faces on YouTube, robhaswebsite.com/YouTube. So there's that. But yes, like there's so much history built in, and I think that one thing that at least comes across to me in watching Sami Zayn and the performance is like the passion that he's bringing, or the energy or the sense of urgency that's there. And so you could feel it. We saw a match that we definitely don't need to talk about between Sami Zayn and Baron Corbin on Raw, where Sami he comes out on top, of course, after Baron Corbin randomly attacks him and basically tells Sami that he should go away. And so, there's a lot that's there. You mentioned, though, Billy, the family, and skipping ahead even more, just kind of sticking with the Sami storyline of it all. Can I just ask, like, how do we feel about, well, actually, you know what? I'm going to go to Amanda. I'm going to go to you, Amanda. What do we feel about Paul Heyman?
Paul Heyman. I gotta pull him up.
Paul Heyman.
Okay. This guy with the phone here.
Yes.
Oh, I hate this guy. So Leah, like he's like a manager guy, and he's trying to stir shit up and get people mad.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Well, let me give Amanda some context.
Yes, please.
Paul
Billy,
Heyman
school me.
Paul Heyman has been managing members of this family for most of his career, dating back to WCW and the Samoan SWAT team. And he has so much history with this family that he can sway their opinion very much. Mm-hmm, and his opinion of Sami Zayn is not a very good one. It's not a very positive.
Yeah.
So the story as it's going along is that it's kind of Paul Heyman that's been poisoning the minds of Roman Reigns against Sami Zayn.
Wow.
And maybe even Jimmy Uso as well.
So he's like a real Shakespearean Iago behind the scenes, really stirring things up. Yeah. Yeah. This guy is so hateable looking. Look at this face. Ugh.
Yeah, and you know what? Here's the thing about Paul Heyman. He's also very great. It's the combination of factors. It's not only, and I love Billy. I appreciate how much you're tapping into the history, because for me and Mari as wrestling fans, really each of us kind of became wrestling fans right around the 2000s and the end of WCW into through the modern era of WWE and everything else. And so it's cool to have the context. And also, you're right, there's the history that Paul Heyman has with folks, which adds to the story. And there's the look that he has, Amanda, that adds to the story. But he also is just so vile in terms of the things that come out of his mouth. So I was going to get to this in a little bit, but I actually just want to just bring in, and Billy, I'm curious to hear your thoughts. We saw a promo between Cody Rhodes, who will be fighting Roman Reigns for the championship at WrestleMania, and also Paul Heyman, who popped up on the screen. I honestly don't remember what happened to his neck exactly. I feel like people are in and out of neck braces left and right, but he interrupted Cody on the screen on Monday night. And yeah, Billy, I just want to hand it over to you. Take it away.
Yeah, just real quick, little trivia. I was on the very first episode of Heyman Hustle, which is his thing.
Oh, damn, you were.
Yeah,
oh,
on
wow.
the very first episode. But what happened
on
to Paul Heyman was that he got stone cold stunned by Kevin Owens after the pay-per-view. So or premium live event. My bad. I'm showing my age here by saying pay-per-view, but
they changed it last year.
Yeah, but we keep talking about history. Cody Rhodes, he comes from he's the son of Dusty Rhodes, and Dusty Rhodes was the mastermind behind the Jim Crockett Promotions and WCW, and so there's so much backstage history to having Cody Rhodes, be interjected into this whole storyline that I just feel like this is, if you're a wrestling mark, you're like having orgasms with this angle. This was made for you.
Clearly. And I think like Ari, just handing it over to you. I feel like you're gonna jump in.
Multiple of them, because I mean, and here's why. Let's bring it back to what Billy mentioned earlier with these storylines. All right, the brilliance behind it is that the Bloodline has its hands everywhere, right? Like we've got beef with Sami Zayn, we've got beef with Cody Rhodes. You know what I'm saying? So like, they're a part of the entire show. So like all eyes on them, spotlight on them. So it's almost regardless of the match, you're almost paying attention to what they're doing. And before we move on anything, I just need to point out when we talk about Paul Heyman, I want to highlight his brilliance when he's confronting Cody Rhodes with a neck brace. He is holding on his shoulders heavyweight championship gold, which is just absurd. Like, I love it. If you have a neck injury, you're not holding 100-pound championship belts.
Mm-hmm.
I think you're wrong. Because here's the thing: he had one on each shoulder.
Oh,
so it's like if you had
it's like a weighted jacket. This could be part of his
it's actually just well balanced.
Yes,
yes, doctor,
got it. Okay.
So that's the thing. Like, yeah, it's just like he's weight training. So
with a neck brace, obviously. Yeah, with a neck brace.
Yeah, it's supportive. Like if he didn't have a neck brace, it would have been worse. Right?
So we didn't see Cody Rhodes fight in any of these clips.
No.
Is he coming for the Bloodline too?
So he is facing Roman Reigns at WrestleMania, which I mean, just to kind of touch on this a little bit, like as we go along at WrestleMania, there are only 3 official matches announced. One of them is Roman Reigns versus Cody Rhodes, and then we'll also talk about Charlotte Flair and Rhea Ripley, who are announced, and then Bianca Belair and Asuka were also announced. So yes, he is coming for the belt at WrestleMania in about a month. Yeah.
Amanda, did you think Cody Rhodes was actually like a video game cutscene or a real person?
I mean, he looks like an action figure villain. Like he is just so like grotesquely plastically evil. But I'm rooting for Roman Reigns in that match.
I was gonna say on that note, I was about to get up and get it too. I literally just at Target the other week, I bought a Cody Rhodes action figure because I was like, oh, there's him from his old company, literally wearing the same freaking suit. Like, so he does. Cody Rhodes is kind of wild because he has that like bleach blonde hair.
Yes.
He does have like the American Dream, or he's called the American Nightmare. His father, Dusty Rhodes, was the American Dream. So he has like this Americana thing. And he also has like, and I'll have to find a great picture of this, Amanda, but he has like the most American neck tattoo.
Ooh.
And I think that like, I do believe that tattoo really I think that weirdly endears people to him. He's
all American.
An American hero. Yeah, people like that.
I feel like you root against somebody in a suit though, right? Like it's like we all want to punch our boss, right? Ooh,
yes.
Wow.
You know, he's supposed to be the one that we're rooting for at WrestleMania.
Okay.
Yeah,
okay.
But you know what?
I got it wrong. Sorry.
No, well, you didn't.
No, I think the show got it wrong.
No, I think like he is not. It's funny because he just rejoined WWE at WrestleMania last year. After leaving All Elite Wrestling, which is actually where the action figure was made, which is why I got it, because I'm like, they're not going to make any more of these because he doesn't work there anymore. So, like having that context, he was actually at a point where he was really hated by fans, even when he was supposed to be the good guy. They just didn't get behind him all that much, or they were trying to, but the character was kind of strange. And so
his hair was black back then, and now it's white. So it's like,
okay.
Well, I mean, I think the other piece though is like there is a lot about him that's not hateable, or that is hateable. There's a lot about Sami Zayn we were talking about earlier that's like not the most rootable or over the top. So you're picking up on a lot of stuff that's like
I'm reading those subtle undercurrents. It's really hard to pull off a neck tattoo. I think that's
very hard. You should wear a neck brace.
He should be wearing the neck brace.
Yes.
Damn. That's like
this guy's trying to take over the world in an RPG. This guy, like,
well, I think Cody Rhodes is a big draw. Is that just like with the storyline? It's really meant for the smart marks. Like Cody Rhodes is supposed to be like the storyline is that he's broken through the forbidden door and left the company that he co-founded to come back to the WWE to live up to his dad's legacy. And now he's taking on the family that has the most legacy in all of pro wrestling. So I feel like Cody Rhodes' journey, just like the Bloodline storyline, is completely aimed at the smart marks. And the casual fans are naturally going to look at this guy and go, this guy looks like an oil tycoon. Why am I supposed to like him?
Yeah.
But I think that's like I love this because it's like Billy, that's a great point. And I think between like everything we're saying, for me it's pointing out something I haven't thought about, which is that the way that, you know, the Sami Zayn storyline is booked, the way that the Cody Rhodes storyline is booked, it's for those fans. It's for, like you said, the smart marks, the super fans, like who are really tuned in and tapped in. Whereas maybe before we've seen WWE cater to like the casual audience, especially leading into WrestleMania. So we'll have like these big, massive muscle guys like Brock Lesnar or like Roman Reigns or, you know, just the headline names, as opposed to WWE taking a chance on some of the people that, you know, we're seeing now. So, I mean, I think that like it's an interesting choice by WWE that's good for the super fans, but also like they need to really work to make sure that they're not only talking to the people who get it, but the people who don't get it as much.
Well,
you know?
the contrast, the two styles, like it wasn't that long ago where when Vince McMahon was running things, we had Braun Strowman win the tag titles with some fan that he pulled out from the audience, quote unquote, some kid. And by contrast, now we have the three matches that you mentioned are all dream matches that are smart mark friendly. Like they're the things that the long-time hardcore fans would look at and say, I've been wanting to see this for such a long time, and we got good angles to back these matches up.
Yeah. I mean, and you know what? Like, we'll talk more about the Asuka Bianca match a little bit and the Charlotte Rhea match, of course. But you know, kind of to get back to the Sami story of it all and kind of how they continue to tell it this week. Like, we went over to Smackdown. There was this whole thing through a couple of segments of Paul Heyman, I guess, like texting Roman Reigns, who was basically like, this is the complexity of the story, where backstage at Smackdown it was Solo Sikoa, who is, as Ari referenced, the brother who has a different last name but has the same parents, and then it was also Jimmy Uso, who's one half of the Uso brothers tag team of Jimmy and Jay. Now, we've seen Jimmy and Jay sort of apart from each other over the last month because of Sami sort of kind of tearing the family apart and creating a divide. So essentially, Paul Heyman is told by Roman Reigns, like, hey, tell Jimmy that he needs to solve whatever's going on with Jay. So Jimmy goes out to the ring. Sami Zayn, of course, pops up and interrupts the situation and shows up and yells at Jimmy about how he doesn't need to be part of the bloodline. And Jay is also in the crowd creeping. I guess he had to buy a ticket to get into the building. But I don't know. And then, so essentially what we saw in this is just the story continued. There wasn't like much to this other than the fact that Jimmy gets distracted after trying to beat up Sami. Sami takes out Jimmy and then escapes through the crowd, and then everyone's left staring at each other. That's kind of how I would sum up where we left this Sami Zayn storyline, or I should say Sami Zayn Bloodline storyline this week. But I don't know if there's anything anyone wants to say about this in particular, about the storyline overall.
Well, I think they are making main event Jey Uso have to weigh real family versus perceived family as a way to work Kevin Owens in, because Kevin Owens is like the yin to the yang here, where he's like, yeah, we have he and Sami Zayn have this long history, but he's over it. But damn, they have this long history, so he can't really turn his back. So they're I think they're gonna basically keep circling each other like sharks in the water until they officially announce the match. And then what's gonna happen when Kevin Owens and Sami Zayn takes on the Usos for the tag titles at WrestleMania, which is where I think all this is going, where I think a lot of fans think all this is going. So I think the whole point of this story is just that, is to have main event Jey Uso and Kevin Owens be the outsiders. That are they going to back up their boys, or are they not going to back up their boys?
Yeah. Ari, any thoughts? Anything to add to
just
that?
Agreeing and nodding my head like a real crony over here. Brilliant. Is that what's going to happen?
I don't know. I think so. I think that it's going to lead to a Sami Zayn, Kevin Owens versus the Usos match, because one thing I think that's worth noting, at least about this story, is that Sami loses the championship match, and he doesn't even seem that pressed about the fact that he didn't win the championship. But he's like realizing, like, oh, my story isn't over like everyone's saying. Like, it still continues. And what that story is not a story of him winning the championship, but a story of revenge. So, like, how does he go about doing that? Is it winning the tag team championships from the Usos? Is it somehow getting involved in the Roman Reigns Cody Rhodes match? I don't know, but it's cool that they're keeping a story going, because, like, Amanda, normally with wrestling, they don't do this type of long-term storytelling. It's just like they abandon stories left and right, which is one of the things that the fans appreciate so much about this.
Yeah, I mean, I'm in awe. I'm hearing Billy like lay out the whole history here, and I just like, I feel like I'm, being schooled by a professor of wrestling. This is fascinating. And I Googled what a mark and a smart mark is while Billy was talking to you. So now I know.
Yes, we love the definitions.
Let me ask you guys. You've been asking us. Let me ask you guys. Here's my thing. Sami Zayn failed at breaking Roman Reigns' record streak, or near record streak, of passing Pedro Morales for the 5th longest reign ever. As a world champion. What if the payoff is Sami Zayn and Kevin Owens breaking the Uso streak as the longest reigning tag team champions ever? He still breaks the streak. He still sticks it to the bloodline, which is his ultimate goal. Both of them.
How many years is that? Like 5 years?
It feels like it.
For the Usos.
So that's a whole presidential term.
Yeah, it's been like 500 something days. I forget the exact number.
Wow.
But
you know who Sami Zayn reminds me of? He reminds me of Mick Foley.
Yes, that's what a lot of people have.
Really? So I'm not original. Okay.
No. Oh, damn. Sorry. Oh, wait. Hold on. Let me rewind that. Say that again, Ari.
You know who Sami Zayn reminds me of? A very original thought. What do you think? It's Mick Foley.
Wow.
Never heard that before.
No one's ever said that before. Did I do
well, Sami Zayn is better because his little thing he did in a ladder match where he put Jeff Hardy's earlobe ring like handcuffed to the ladder. I'm sorry, Mick Foley never did anything that cool. I don't think any wrestler has ever done anything that cool before.
So does this have to? Oh, this is Mick Foley. Was that the flag? Yeah, I can see that. So is the only satisfying way for this to end is like, so Sami Zayn has to like win, right? Like the underdog has to beat the David has to beat the Goliath, right?
Ooh, yeah. I mean, somehow, and in one way or the other, but like, it's a question of what does that look like? Does it look like him winning the championship? Not necessarily, and that's not the story that they're telling. But it looks like him having like that victory, to your point, Amanda, but what does that look like? I think it looks like Roman Reigns having his bloodline family torn apart, or Roman Reigns being embarrassed, or Roman Reigns losing the championships, or like Billy said, the Usos, Roman's tag team losing their championships. So it's that, like, yes, Sami needs to win, but like, what does winning look like is kind of the complicated thing that we don't know as fans.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So there's a lot there. We'll be talking a lot more about this storyline as we get closer to WrestleMania. For today, any final thoughts on what is like the biggest storyline in WWE before we get to a little bit of a break?
The Bloodline storyline with the championship on the line.
Okay, I see what you did there with the poetry, spoken word. But you know what? That's a great note for us. We're going to head to a commercial break. Thanks, Ari. And we will be right back. All right, everyone, we're back. That was such a great long commercial break. Happy to be here with you all, and gonna dive into some more stories that are happening. So we, of course, got into the storyline with Sami, with Cody, with Roman, all that stuff. But now I actually want to get into sort of like an intertwining story that ties in. I mean, the least significant part, I guess, is like Austin Theory's road to WrestleMania. He barely appeared here defending his championship and shows up. But more importantly, there's the story of Edge and his road to WrestleMania, Finn Balor with the Judgment Day, Rhea Ripley with the Judgment Day, Dominick Mysterio with the Judgment Day. And, you know, I guess the best place to start out is just to recognize that at Elimination Chamber, we saw the Judgment Day, Finn Balor, Rhea Ripley, accompanied by Dominick Mysterio, taking on Edge and Beth Phoenix. And of course, Edge and Beth Phoenix, as folks know, won that match, and Rhea Ripley and Finn Balor, accompanied by Dominic, lost, which is interesting because, like, as mentioned a little bit earlier, Rhea is going to be facing Charlotte Flair, who's the WWE SmackDown Women's Champion, for the championship at WrestleMania. So there was a lot that was happening here, but the place that I want to start is just recognizing that Austin Theory, U.S. champion, put out an open challenge, which Edge accepted, and we kind of saw that feed into a match on Raw between Edge and Austin Theory, which the Judgment Day got involved with. But before I kind of go too much further, I just want to see if there are any initial thoughts on the Austin Theory Edge of it all, and just this match that Judgment Day stuck their noses into for no good reason. It was rude.
Edge called Austin Theory the kid with sunglasses, and he called him really stupid.
I mean, that's what he is. That's his whole thing. And honestly, like, you know, just to touch on that, sir, you're probably in the brightest room possible at that press conference after Elimination Chamber. Like, you don't need the sunglasses, and maybe I can't tell if it was like a furry jacket that he was wearing, but he was inside.
Well, I know. Think about these these conferences. Like, what do we think about this? It's like super bizarre. It's like they're in character. Yeah. They're not. Pick a lane.
Yeah, you need like a White House press secretary to come out and like field the questions.
Yeah. Well, you know, Austin Theory's future is so bright, he has to wear the sunglasses.
There you go.
Ooh, that's true.
That's it. And honestly, like, you know, you can't even blame him. There's so much to not like about that man, and it's amazing.
Are Edge and Austin Theory, are they both heels?
No.
Edge is clearly the babyface.
Oh, he is. I did not like him.
I guess you didn't like him from the press conference?
Probably. I don't know. It's all a blur.
That was because that was the like one clip we kind of looked at.
Yeah. He was like being, you know, like really snarky and
Well, sarcasm is his thing.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, and I will say that Edge was definitely a little bit more off the cuff in that, so it did kind of come off like a little snarky, like you were saying. Mm-hmm. So I don't think that was the best portrayal of his character, and it's funny because Edge typically has these very like measured, calculated, like deeply. I don't know why the word that comes to mind is psychological. There's something else, but like very like just.
That's what I am, a psychologist.
Yes, you are the edge of.
Oh, I'm the edge of this podcast panel.
Yeah. So it is. Yeah, it's kind of funny though, because this whole thing between Edge and Austin Theory, I don't think is storyline that's going anywhere. It's just that Austin Theory put out the open challenge. He has his own road to WrestleMania. They're saying that he might take on John Cena at WrestleMania, is like what the rumors have said. So we haven't seen that. We'll talk about that. But
I think this match was meant to be one place where two storylines get furthered. And so they used, since even though Raw is 3 hours, you think they'd have enough time to get over every storyline. They used this one match as a way to how do I put it? To not have to spend so much time telling as many stories. And so with Austin Theory, he took on a legend and he beat a legend. So now his whole storyline is going to be, well, I can beat another legend at WrestleMania, and that's how they're working John Cena. And with Edge, I think it, they want to use like a stipulation match maybe against Finn Balor, since the two have wrestled so many times. I personally would love to see Brood Edge versus Demon Balor, but I don't think it's going to happen. But I would love to see that.
I mean, we'll see. And Billy, I really like what you said about the, I guess, Austin Theory's story of beating this legend. Like maybe next week he'll beat another legend or someone else who's a former world champion or established, and kind of just keep doing that up until the point where like John Cena comes out. I don't know. And also Edge was a former rival of John Cena's. So I don't know. Maybe I'm really thinking a lot about the John Cena story because that's what's rumored. John Cena did wrestle in December. So like he's probably in shape to show up at WrestleMania, and they'd love him there. But yeah, we did see on Raw, basically in the match between Theory and Edge, that Finn Balor comes out, kicks Edge essentially, which leads Theory into getting the win, and then he just beats Edge down even more, and then squats over him, and that was kind of what happened between them on Raw.
What does the purple sash stand for? What does it mean?
The little like X thing on their chests.
Yeah, what's going on? What is it?
It's just their branding.
Does he always wear a neckerchief?
I mean,
that seems like a liability, right? Because somebody could grab that. That's like a handle.
Yeah, but
good thing you're assaulting someone in the middle of their match. Less risk.
Yeah, you could wear a neckerchief when you're the one who's just showing up unexpected and attacking.
By the way, very, very upsetting. Imagine beating these people the night before Elimination Chamber. You think the beef is done. Hey, beef is done. You wipe your hands clean. Great competition. You move on. We beat each other. I win. And then the next night, out of nowhere, like, why is Finn Balor interrupting my business for the gold? What a hater. What is he doing?
He's a loser.
Well, I thought we were done.
Sore loser. Yeah.
That was yesterday.
I do want to say, I know that this is like a standard part of like the wrestling shtick, but these people coming off the street, like in their street clothes and getting into the ring and fighting, it like makes me like so uncomfortable, because I'm always like, do you really, like, in those pants, do those have enough stretch? Like I always worry about their outfits. I do
too. And you know what? The pants. Just to talk about the pants for a second, I've always been so impressed about the jeans when I see like a wrestler come out in jeans, and then they're jumping, flipping, splitting, backflips, all of it. But Amanda, they do sell these great jeans. Look, shout out to Target if you want to sponsor the podcast.
They have some stretch in
you
there.
Can. No, there's like really good stretch. Like you need
like
those
jeggings.
jeans. Everyone needs them, because you could definitely do like an action scene kind of fight, but you could also, like show up to a restaurant and look like you belong.
I don't even want to break into a light jog in my jeans, so I don't know.
Well, I can't speak about jeans, but I could tell you from having been a wrestler that you're not allowed to wear street shoes in the ring because of all of what might be brought with it. All like the little pebbles, maybe broken pieces of glasses, whatever.
Yeah.
So all those shoes, no matter how nice they might be, they're specifically saved for in-ring action.
Yeah. And a lot of wrestlers will even do like the and actually it's funny because I think I've seen it like played up by heels as maybe a disrespectful move of like, they're wiping their feet on the edge of the ring. But like, yeah, like people will often like before getting into the ring, kind of do this thing where they're wiping their feet off on the edge so they're not bringing in all the bird
germs.
Always
if they're fancy. It's always the British wrestlers.
Yeah, always the British wrestlers. That's right. I guess.
Plus, there's also a tradition behind that as well. In that, because it's been going on for so long that when you wipe your feet, even though you put your wrestling boots on in a locker room and you've walked on a carpet and the entranceway is perfectly clean, you get to the ring, you still wipe your feet. What you're saying is, I'm part of this tradition.
Yeah.
So it's like a little wink and a nod to people who know. If you know, you know. If you don't,
and it's respect. It's respect. Like one thing that sometimes, like Amanda, that I'd point out that you might see in watching future wrestling matches is sometimes like when one opponent gets like the pin on the other opponent, like they'll sometimes like whisper to them low key, and you can kind of tell if you know to look out for it. But even just like thank you, like thanks brother, like all that. So so it's it's really sweet. Wrestling could be really sweet, which I wish this was the Valentine's Day edition and we could have gone through all the sweet wrestling moments.
I can tell you from my matches. I can tell you from my matches, I never got a thank you, but I got plenty of "Are you still alive?"
that also
that is a sign of love too, Billy.
Definitely.
That's a way to say I love you. Are you
wellness check?
Good. We love a good old wellness check. And this is again, this story continues. There's going to be some kind of match at WrestleMania, and I actually think that kind of shifting a little and talking about the intertwining storylines, like over on SmackDown, we saw Rhea, Ripley, and Dominic show up. Before getting to SmackDown, though, there was this segment or this interview on Raw. It was really quick between Byron Saxton, who was doing the interview, and then Dominick Mysterio and Rhea Ripley, basically bringing up the loss that the Judgment Day had. And Rhea's like, I don't want to talk about that. Like, leave us out of that. And essentially, well, one, I am curious about thoughts from you all on that interview specifically, because there's a lot that came up. But like Rhea basically says, like, look, leave me out of that loss. I'm looking ahead to WrestleMania. I'm going to win that championship, even though I lost to Charlotte Flair 3 years ago at WrestleMania. And then Dominick Mysterio is still talking about the fact that he was in jail. Amanda, did you pick up on this?
I mean, I was very confused about all this. So the relationship between Rhea and Dominic is what?
Mommy said. Did that confuse you?
Mommy and
so this is no, but this is not like this. They're not related. Are
no,
they?
They're not in a no.
Okay.
You know what, Billy? Maybe maybe easier for us. Like in our for us, we call some mommies.
No, I just wanted to because then like Dominic is the son of Rey Mysterio.
Yes.
Okay. All right. I just wanted to, and then, but what is the relationship between Rhea and Dominic?
Dom and sub.
Yo, Rhea Ripley made Dominick Mysterio a man. He took him from a boy to a man. If you get my wink, wink, nudge, nudge.
Okay.
So
apprenticeship
implied.
So everything that they said is kind of so their relationship really started back mid last year or toward like the end of last year, really. Dominic and Rey were teamed together. Dominic turned against his father to join Rhea and the Judgment Day. Now, I guess they're like boyfriend and girlfriend now, but it was kind of just like there was like a dungeon involved and it was like a dominatrix type of situation before. So that's kind of what it was, to answer your question in way too much detail.
Okay. And she is what pulled him away from his dad.
They were Dominick Mysterio was like the quintessential cookie cutter baby face, in that he was young, because he was young and he was the son of a legend. People naturally cheered for him. But a long time ago, there was a storyline where Eddie Guerrero was Dominic's kayfabe real life dad. And so Dominic's current look is a wink and a nod to that storyline, in that he looks like he's being dressed like Eddie Guerrero. and so he hates his father now, and a lot of it has to do with Ripley getting in his ear and sort of winking, giving the wink nod, nudge to that whole storyline of Eddie Guerrero is really Dominick Mysterio's real life dad, and Rey Mysterio is not only a bad father, he's holding him back, and Dominic could be his own man by being in the Judgment Day.
Wow.
And so the what's been implied is that all this was accomplished by Rhea Ripley making Dominick Mysterio a man, taking it from boy to man. Wink, wink.
It's very powerful. It's a
bar mitzvah
thing. Yeah.
And by the way, if you're watching on YouTube, here's a picture. Here's a picture of Dominic from 20 years ago. Literally, that's him.
Oh my goodness, little baby
a wrestling
boy
storyline.
Okay, and this is very layered and multi-generational, because then we also have Rhea is going to fight Charlotte Flair. Is that right?
Yes.
And then I know that she is Ric Flair's daughter. So
Ooh,
does does that generation of Ric Flair and Rey Mysterio, is there anything in that layer that has to do with this storyline?
That's interesting. No, there's not even a specific Rey Mysterio, Ric Flair thing at all. But other than the fact that they are these generational talents, and the longer we go on, the more of these wrestlers who are second generation, third generation, so on and so forth, we're seeing. And that actually ties in with what I want to go to next, which is that on SmackDown, Charlotte Flair comes out. She's like, I'm the best. I'm the champ. Wrestling at WrestleMania. Rhea Ripley can't beat me. Whatever. The typical stuff. Dominick Mysterio comes out and essentially on behalf of Rhea, what did you say?
Like a good boy.
Dominick Mysterio comes out like a good boy, and that sounds more like a dog. But he kind of just says look, get out of mommy's face, leave her alone. Amanda, what were your thoughts on this? I feel like you really had some strong emotion reaction as I started to describe this one.
Yeah, no, I was so he's coming out here and fighting his girl's battle here. What did does she want him to do that? Does Rhea need him to come in and talk smack?
No, but I think it's it's the psychological tricks. Because in a way we've seen Rhea time and time again come up against these different men that are facing her boys, the Judgment Day, in terms of Dominic and Finn Balor, and also Damian Priest, who we didn't see in this stuff. But she'll step to the guys, and then they're like, what are we gonna do? We can't beat her up. Which,
to be fair, she's the strongest of the group. So,
I know she beats them. She beats the guys up, but they're like, oh my god, I can't do anything. And then now I feel there's a little. Charlotte Flair could have beat up Dominick Mysterio.
Oh, absolutely.
Yeah, it did seem it did seem she's saying this is adult stuff. He did seem like a little kid, just kind of messing with
Listen, ma'am.
She has this gravitas to her. It was just come on, kid, get out of her face.
She's a Flair.
He has beer balls now that he went to his father's house for I forget which holiday. It might have been Christmas. Beat up his dad at Christmas. He went to jail overnight, and now he acts like he's a hardened criminal. So he has beer balls now.
Okay.
Yes, he was in jail for one.
He was actually in jail for one night. That's
one night.
For overnight.
Okay.
Yeah,
okay.
For overnight. But
yes,
now he's a hardened criminal.
Yeah.
And he was not in prison. He was in jail. Yes. But he knows.
Look at all these developmental milestones. He becomes a man. He spends a night in jail.
What a year! Year in review.
Look at you, Dominic.
We're proud of him.
Mm-hmm.
Oh my gosh! Yeah, no. I wish they showed the pictures of him as a kid from WWE more often. Because Amanda, I remember watching that as a kid growing up, and he was so sad. Dominick Mysterio was legitimately crying as a child. Which also ties in with the character of just running away and being this. I don't even know the best words, but just being this sheepish heel running away from folks. He was a kid who so many people kind of grew up with a little bit in this weird controversial custody storyline, and now he's back and he's like a bigger kid basically, which is
defending his mommy.
So much respect for his mommy. But yeah, I mean, was there anything else from this like Charlotte, Rhea, Dominic dynamic? I should mention, of course, that Rhea comes out and stares down Charlotte and basically protects Dominic from being assaulted. But I don't know if there was much here to break down.
Well, Amanda,
Rhea looks fierce. Oh yes, Philly.
Yeah, since Dominic has so many daddy issues with the whole Eddie Guerrero, Rey Mysterio thing, the fact that he calls Rhea Ripley his mommy, do you think that they're playing up the whole psychological trauma thing of his childhood?
I think you're definitely onto something, Billy, that he's like looking for a stable parental figure. I think that makes a lot of sense.
That's very
it's very Freudian.
Yeah, and you know what? It's very Freudian, and I also just feel like, it's sympathetic. It's very sympathetic.
I mean, he's 25 years old. He's still just a little guy, even though he spent a night in jail.
I mean, yeah. I do think it is kind of strange, though, watching like Dominic's mommy taking on Ric Flair's daughter, and it's just like, who's with who? I need a family tree for WWE.
Oh my god, I need a family tree. Yeah.
Oh my gosh, we'll work on this. But we referenced Rey Mysterio too, because a little bit earlier in the night, Rey Mysterio, he's backstage. Kayla Braxton, who's the interviewer, is like, Rey, you've just had a really rough time. Like, you're going through it, all sorts of trauma, which is like, what has he been going through? Mari and I haven't really been talking about it, but Rey has had like kind of a crisis of confidence lately. And then Santos Escobar, who is another luchador who respects Rey, kind of comes out and tells him as much. Generational talent, and he comes out and he respects her, and then like Dom and Rhea interrupt and call it pathetic, and later on in the night we kind of see this paying off where Rey Mysterio is taking on Karrion Kross in a match. There's really not much to talk about with that match, and this is probably the most that I'll mention Karrion Kross at any point. But the fact is, Dominic comes out, interrupts, distracts enough to get Karrion Kross the win. And then he proceeds to assault his father, which is not nice. Not nice at all.
Yeah, this was very sad. I think Rey Mysterio seemed like a very tragic figure in this set of clips.
He is a tragic figure.
Yeah, I love that you said that, because I felt like this part of the story is very much a Greek tragedy. That Rey Mysterio is the tragic hero in a Greek tragedy.
So is Rey reaping what he sowed, though, in terms of this whole custody battle, from Dominic's past? Is Rey at all at fault, or was that just a messy situation?
You're gonna fault a hardworking man for trying to support his family.
Yeah, how dare you? I mean,
oh my goodness, I'm so
on
sorry.
the road 365 days a year.
Oh my God! No.
That's the whole thing. He's on the road so much he wasn't around to raise his son.
Actually,
come on.
You know what? Actually, you're onto something, and I think you're right. And I do think Rey deserves it, but Rey also is apologetic for for being away all that time and not being there. And the thing is, he tried to make it up to him.
Very Gen X storyline here. The parents are always working. Latchkey kid, Dominic.
Cats in the cradle and the silver spoon, all that.
But the thing is, oh my God,
you also got to take into account Dominic's entry into pro wrestling was when Rey Mysterio was feuding with Seth Rollins, and Rey Mysterio had an eye taken out. Oh. And if you remember this storyline, he had an eye taken out in front of his kid, in front of Dominic, and so Dominic's entry into pro wrestling is a series of traumatic events.
Yeah, I mean, I haven't seen all the tape on this, but I have to say, I think that this was probably a suboptimal child rearing environment for young Dominic.
100%.
Yes.
You know what? So, I appreciate. I'm glad that you're helping us see who's really right here.
Because even though Rey Mysterio is very much both feet on the side of a babyface and has been his entire career, I can't think of a single night where he was the heel. Having said that, you're taking basically the quintessential babyface and putting him in a situation where he's all the sins of his past has come caught up to him in the form of Dominick Mysterio. And so now how does he reconcile the sins of his past? Is he going to fight his son, which is what his son wants?
Yeah.
Or is he going to keep taking the abuse, keeping his son firmly on the side of the heels because his son feels justified of having been exposed to all this trauma his entire life, courtesy of his father?
Wow.
So,
it really is a Greek tragedy.
Yeah. Yeah.
That's incredible.
I think they're going to fight. I think it's WrestleMania. They're going to fight. That's what I think. And
so
I think
Luke, I am your father moment. It's like the Darth Vader, Luke Skywalker. Oh, that's amazing.
Yeah. And
For
I think
most
it's
families,
inevitable.
that kind of... Sorry, go ahead.
No, I was just going to say, I think it's inevitable that for it to be a Greek tragedy, the father has to go down. Like, he has to go down bad. Like, lose his mask or something. He has to go down bad.
Oh, my God.
Damn, that hurt. That hurt just hearing you say that one.
Yeah. But you were saying, Ari.
Yeah.
That was so long ago. Who even remembers what I was going to say?
I don't know. But I think like the key is like, it's just a lot. And you know what? Dominic is the jerk though, because Ray did win the championships with him. Like if everything else went wrong, even if he was an absentee father, like, you know, he won the championships with him. You win the championships with your son. It makes up for a lot.
What is
Dad?
what is a father's love up against some fancy belts? I don't know.
That's real. And honestly, if I'm really like looking at this, you know, objectively, Rey Mysterio could have done a lot more to build his relationship with his son. His son had to come to him, to his show, to confront him. Why isn't Ray, you know, showing up at Raw every week to mend the relationship with his son?
Sitting ringside, cheering him on with like a sign. You're like, I love you, son.
I know, he could afford to. He's been wrestling for 20 years.
Ray left Raw to go to Smackdown
to
separate himself from his son so that they wouldn't have this conflict. Exactly. But his son followed him to Smackdown now.
Exactly. Ray ran away from his problems.
Wow.
Yes.
We need some like family counseling for
Dr. usually, right? Instead of
Dr.
the ring,
Phil.
like it's Dr. Phil. It's usually how these matters are settled, right? Like my teenage son is out of control. What can you do to help him?
Prescribed way, Dr. Phil.
Yeah. My son has spent 24 hours in jail. He's dating, I don't know, emo women. What
goth women, yeah.
Goth women. Dr. Phil, can you help? Well, Ray, what you need to do is you need to sit your son down and tell him you're the one in charge.
We do not endorse Dr. Phil on this podcast. I think I'd rather have them figure it out in the ring.
That's the
words from a doctor.
Have them get in a match, have a stipulation. If Rey Mysterio wins, Dominic has to give Ray a hug and tell him I'm sorry. If Dominic wins, Rey Mysterio has to give Dominic the hug and tell him I'm sorry.
Everyone wins.
Less fighting, more hugging.
Yeah.
Wow. That's such a beautiful idea.
You know what I also like about anything with Rey Mysterio? Anytime he's on screen, he's like a Dora the Explorer episode where
what are you talking about?
He does English and then Spanish. Like
it's
Dominic is my son, my hijo. Like okay. Like,
I will say
La manzana. I will eat the apple.
Oh my God. It is educational. I appreciate it. I love it. I'm crying right now with the beauty of these ideas. And actually, I think that it's a good time, one, for us to move on to a different storyline, but also for us to take a quick commercial break. And we're back. Oh, wow. How was that break for you, Amanda?
Very relaxing.
Ari, how was that break?
Took a nap.
And Billy, speaking of breaks, just to get into it, I know I mentioned earlier, you know, we have Asuka, Bianca Belair going head to head at WrestleMania. And we basically saw Asuka break Nikki Cross's arm this past week on Raw. I want to really go through the women's storylines that we saw on Raw because there wasn't a lot that they gave us, but there were a few things that I think are notable that I'd love to touch on, beginning with everything with Asuka, which even before maybe getting to the match with Nikki Cross, I know one of the clips that I shared with you all was like a very short clip of Asuka laughing off the competition at Elimination Chamber. But yeah, I mean, Amanda, there wasn't a lot here, but I am curious what your takeaways
Too much
were.
still. Too much. She is terrifying. Like I'm gonna have nightmares about this woman.
Yeah, well, I mean, I think part of it that doesn't help, just to kind of sum up what we got here on Raw before talking about it, is, of course, Bianca Belair, the champion, the Raw Women's Champion, is going to take on Asuka at WrestleMania. They had a little bit of a stare down in the ring, and Asuka proceeded to just to bleed blue ink from her mouth, or maybe some might say it was the mist that she spits at people, but it's still terrifying.
She spits at people.
She spits at people.
In the year of our Lord 2023, she spits at people.
I mean, it's colorful though.
Okay.
She spits a mist that blinds her opponents.
Yes.
It's something that the great Muda, or might have been the one who originated, or at least he popularized the idea. So we're going way back to the late 80s, to the mid to late 80s, the great Muda, who in New Japan goes under the name Kinji Muto. Yeah, and he just recently retired, as a matter of fact. And the whole idea is kind of like a little bit of a take on not only a Japanese style espionage from feudal Japan and the whole ninja, where you pull the mask down from a ninja, will spit in your face and you're blinded.
Oh my god!
Now the ninja can kill you, but it's also kind of got popularized in pop culture with like Mortal Kombat and those kinds of video games.
Yeah.
And so
I'm very concerned about like viral transmission, though.
Ew, yeah. Oh god, yeah. Especially in okay, Amanda, I'm with you. Yeah. I'm with you. Because at first I was like, yeah, people spitting in 2023, that's such an old school thing. They should have stopped that in 2010. And then I'm like, oh wait, the last 3 years of
there was some stuff went down. Yeah.
But you know what? It's maybe the most effective wrestling move potentially.
Yeah.
So deadly potentially too. But
for the long haul, yeah, it has long-term payoff.
So let me get this right. The idea is you spit at your opponent, you lose tonight, but when you get the rematch and they're infected with COVID, you'll win easy.
There you go.
And hopefully they don't show up. Yes, that's
you win by forfeit, even easier.
I mean, there's all sorts of the flu, COVID. Yes. It's very. We don't want to give any
pathogens.
Yes. Airborne pathogens, to use the clinical term.
I think
here.
Being blind by blue gunk is a little bit more pressing.
Yeah,
not great.
Not being able to see anymore.
It's not great. I don't know. And I feel like this is basically this is the topic of conversation. Like Asuka beating people up, laughing maniacally, spewing.
She's unhinged.
She is unhinged.
Yes.
I mean, I like to talk about fashion. Dr. Amanda, have you seen the choice in attire for? She's doing the superhero thing with the underwear over the.
Oh yes, no, very very bold choices. I mean, she looks great. She looks really cool, and then the makeup, of course, is like very intimidating. The hair, like the whole look, is working. I mean, clearly that's what she's going for, is kind of like a Joker sort of like unhinged type of persona, and she's nailing it. It's very terrifying.
And she historically has been the good guy, but I think I think in this match she's probably going to play heel.
Yeah. What drove her to these lengths?
Well, it's weird because like it's kind of to Billy's point. Like she's not officially the heel. so she's like very intense right now. And the thing is, the fans love her. So they love to see her beat up people. She's always been the type to assault and beat up people. So like nothing's really changed that much with her. I think though, the question is her going up against Bianca Belair, who is like, as Mari would say, like a white meat baby face, like full on baby face, good guy.
Yes.
Like, will Asuka be the heel, or will they both be baby faces going into the match? And it's kind of confusing, but it looks like Asuka has that darker side coming out, even if it's just beginning with this stare down.
Yeah. I mean, Bianca Belair is like reading like total sweetheart. I mean, like she's just like gorgeous, warm, like just seems like you can see like the sparkle in her teeth when she smiles, and the eye, like she's got the halo, like she's reading. Like I feel like it makes a lot of sense that in that matchup, for the contrast, they would want Asuka to be bringing that kind of chaotic heel energy.
Anti-hero.
What's cool about Asuka and fascinating is Asuka doesn't do a lot of like speaking, right? So it's a lot of credit, and I'm fascinated by a lot of the messaging is conveyed by facial expressions, which is really cool to watch, right? Because Asuka, you just mentioned, Matt, that Asuka always gets cheered on. Asuka has more charisma using her literal facial reactions than half the roster. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah. And her aerosolized saliva.
Well, it's a crowd pleaser.
My brain just broke as you said aerosolized
saliva. Yeah.
I heard aerial saliva, and I was like, oh, okay.
Well, that too.
Yeah. Wow. This
Great
is beautiful. And speaking of unhinged, I just want to mention, so we saw Asuka's opponent, Nikki Cross, kind of tap out to her and lose the match. But there's this storyline that's been building where essentially for weeks, Candice LeRae, who is women's wrestler on Raw, has kind of been, for lack of a better term, stalked by Nikki Cross with her in the background multiple times. So I couldn't even find all of the different clips of this, but there are so many moments where over the last couple of months, they've just shown Candice backstage and Nikki Cross is like hiding behind a travel case or something else. And so ultimately, what we saw on this week's Raw, which I want to talk about this storyline a little bit because Mari and I have not talked about this at all. We see that Candice LeRae finally stops Nikki Cross, and she's like, "Why are you stalking me? Like, why are you always popping up?" And Nikki whispers in Candice's ear, apparently, that she's lonely. But I'm just like I like to go. Amanda, I just love your reactions to all of this. I love to go to you first for this because you are clearly losing it.
Yeah. I mean, this is so bizarre. So like Nikki Cross, that's her name.
Yes.
She seems like it's very childlike, and it's very, very creepy. And then like Candice like talks to her and they have that moment. And she says she's lonely, and like this is like is this like a typical type of storyline this seems very bizarre to me?
No, I mean Ari. I was gonna say Ari. Would you say this is a typical storyline?
I can't remember the last time I Need a Friend campaign was on screen. Wasn't that a thing? Be a star.
Be a star. Show tolerance and respect. It's like I think it's still a thing. WWE's anti-bullying initiative,
show
where they like
tolerance and respect.
They send wrestlers to classrooms and schools and do assemblies, and they're like, "Don't do what we do on WWE. Be good. Don't be mean to people. Don't beat them up.
Give them the chair. Don't give them the chair.
Yeah, give them the chair. Don't give them the chair." But you know what? Actually, I'm glad you asked the question. Like, is this a thing? Because the last time that there was a storyline that was kind of like this to me was maybe, probably the storyline like 2005, 2006 between Trish Stratus and Mickie James, Mickie James, who was competing for the women's championship. Trish Stratus, two phenomenal women's wrestlers. Picture up on YouTube of, I believe, Trish Stratus dressed as Mickey, and then Mickey dressed as Trish Stratus, and Mickey being confused. Mickey was like a super fan, essentially, and kind of, again, also the way that she debuted into WWE was as this, as this super fan of Trish who was overly obsessed and
like a single white female kind of plot line.
Type of plot line. And that seems not even similar to what they're doing with Nikki Cross and Candice LeRae yet, because it's just kind of sad. Like, oh, she's lonely.
Yeah. Two different kind of, like, one's I need a friend, the other one's an unhinged super fan.
So, but like, what is Nikki's like general persona? Because like this seems like very like childlike and like feral child.
Yes, that's exactly it. Feral. She's feral. That's the number one word to describe her.
Wow.
That we use.
Feral.
Childlike is also there, and just unhinged as well.
Mm-hmm.
And she just wants a friend. She just wants to play hide and seek. I don't know where this goes. I mean, say, though,
when your profession is to get hit in the head, I mean, you're bound.
Yeah, there's.
You got to come see me. You get
friends and brain cells.
A lot of behavior without great explanation. Or without
if you follow Johnny Gargano and Candice LeRae all the way back to NXT, they tend to attract these kinds of people a lot.
They do. I mean, Dexter Lumis, who was standing with Johnny Gargano and with Candice in a segment, literally basically did the same thing to Johnny Gargano, like hiding, popping up places. So it is interesting. But also Candice LeRae and Nikki Cross were both in NXT together. So they haven't referenced the history, but they did have a history facing off against each other as characters. So yeah, this is I don't know where this story's going.
Yeah. Do we think Candice is going to like take her under her wing? Like, what do we know of Candice like about that could like suggest where this storyline might be going?
She's very maternal.
Yeah.
I think what they're doing is they're bringing the Gargano way, which was a clique in NXT. I think they're bringing that to the main roster, but with instead of Austin Theory, who's doing his own thing, I think they're replacing him with Nikki Cross, and they're using the old Stalker storyline that brought Dexter Lumis in to the Gargano way for Nikki Cross, and so I think that's where they're going with all of this.
And just
beautiful. There you go.
I loved it. And just like to reference that, so the way back in NXT was a group that at first had Austin Theory, who we saw, Johnny Gargano, Candice LeRae, and then Indy Hartwell all together. And then at some point, like Dexter Lumis worked his way into the story. I think maybe when Austin Theory was pulled away from the story at some, or it was like actually Dexter Lumis like kidnapped Austin Theory, and it was a whole mess. But maybe they will reform this group, and like I guess in my mind it's like Nikki Cross maybe is more in the spot of like Indy Hartwell, who's holding up the championship in this picture, and then Dexter Lumis is there, Johnny's there.
And then you're going to have a relationship between Lumis and Cross instead of Lumis and Hartwell, maybe?
That's not right.
Because they had a relationship for a while, and it was just this weird. It's this whole soap opera, but it was awesome.
And by the way, I'm not even going to go into this and pull up the pictures for it, but Dexter Lumis, I think legally in character might still be married. He was married to Indy Hartwell at one point. So I don't know what happens if he has a relationship with Nikki Cross. Like, is it infidelity? Do we see a feud between Nikki Cross and Indy Hartwell over the marriage? Does this turn into like a Dominick Mysterio type of situation? Is there a kid somewhere involved? Candice LeRae and Johnny Gargano have a kid. Does their kid go up for grabs? Is their kid
generational trauma? People, stop the cycle.
It's overwhelming. It's not right. And we're here. We're still surviving. Any final thoughts on the Candice LeRae Nikki Cross situation before we get
Dr. Amanda just heard the word Dexter Lumis kidnaps Johnny Gargano and didn't even blink at all. Just like
yeah,
I'm learning so much from you all.
Yeah, just another day. Lots of kidnapping. Gosh, wild times.
Yeah. Instead of a kid, is going to be kidnapping. Yeah, you're right.
Oh no. I don't want to know where this is going. I feel like I just want to tell everyone to get away. Like Candice, stay home. Nikki Cross, stay home. Just like I don't want to see any more kidnappings in WWE. We get like one a year, which is I think the
really?
right amount. Yeah.
Okay.
The right amount.
Yeah.
But what I am glad is
One
that
time it led to a
Gargano
marriage.
Like a Stockholm syndrome type marriage?
Yeah.
Wow.
And then they owned the company.
Wasn't that what happened with Austin Theory? Stockholm syndrome?
Well, I
Austin
mean,
Theory.
yeah, kind of, but
Yeah.
I mean, Stephanie McMahon and Triple
Stephanie
H.
and Triple H.
Oh yeah. That's a big one,
Aside from the HR issues.
I was gonna say actually, that's a whole other. Yeah, lots of.
Is there like an HR character who comes out and
No,
it's like,
Amanda, there's
no,
not
that's
an
what they
HR
need.
character.
That's what they need. Somebody consult with me.
I mean,
They need a family therapist, an HR character.
Oh my gosh, you should be the HR character. I would love to see
one
you
of my
on
first-
TV.
One of my first TV episodes of WWE that I
don't
ever
know where
saw
this is going.
was George the Animal Steel visiting a psychiatrist called Dr. Simon Fraud.
Fraud.
That's funny.
God.
That's good. That's good.
There's a lot here where I'm just this is the part where I'm like questioning my wrestling fandom with all of the. But I'm glad Amanda.
This is why you're never gonna have me back. You're like, she's such a downer. Like,
Well, no, I mean-
generational trauma and head injuries.
No, I mean to like turn it around. I do feel like you should use pro wrestling as like take clips from wrestling, show them to people as just examples of like just the problematic things that could happen if you don't take care of yourself in the ways you need to.
Yes.
Ugh, dark times.
It can be worse campaign, and then you show them a clip.
It gets worse.
It gets worse. It can be worse. It doesn't always get
just
worse.
Don't use any of the footage where they try to shake each other's hands, because that never works out for anybody.
No.
Marriages also. Weddings never work out.
The weddings never work out.
Contract signings don't work out. The therapy segments don't work out either.
Not either. Yeah.
But it's a testament to hope that they keep on coming back. They keep on coming back. That's the human spirit. Yeah.
We love that. And speaking of coming back and the human spirit, we had a segment between Damage Control, which is Io Sky, Dakota Kai, who were seated, and Bailey, who was hosting her little Sally Jesse Raphael type of segment, Ding Dong Hello. Of course, that was interrupted by Becky Lynch, who of course had her recently returning WWE legend Lita come out and have her back. And just wanted to touch on this quickly as the story develops leading into WrestleMania, because next week, or really in a few days, we're going to see Becky Lynch and Lita take on Damage Control, aka Io Sky and Dakota Kai, for the Women's Tag Team Championships. Curious, Ari, what your thoughts are on this one. And, again, another Lita return, I think, which I know for myself as a wrestling fan is always awesome, but always curious to hear your thoughts.
My initial thought on Damage Control. I want to talk about Damage Control. It felt like I was watching like the after school anime club, and they're pissed. Now they're tag team champions. Who are these people? What are their names? I know Damage Control, but what are the individuals?
Io Sky, Dakota Kai, and
I love it.
And Bailey, and they actually all debuted or kind of came together because all of them have been wrestling for the longest time, but they all came together at SummerSlam this past year. After school special. And Bailey is, of course, the leader, as you could tell, the veteran wrestler, the veteran character, the most popular one, and kind of has Io and Dakota as her two lackeys, so to speak.
The two freshmen. She's the senior.
Yes.
She invited them. Let's talk anime after school. They're sick and tired of being bullied for their love of anime, and now they're here to kick your ass.
That's what it's giving visually.
Did I nail it?
I don't I mean maybe like low-key that's their motivation, which like that's the sympathetic motivation. Like they love anime, no one else wants to be their friends. Bailey also maybe likes anime and wants to be their friends. I think that could be the story that they're not telling us, but it's there, Ari. I like it. Billy?
Well, I think moving away from the anime for a second, which I love anime.
Thank
by
you.
the way. Vampire Hunter D is the greatest anime of all time, in my opinion. You're like, what? I don't even know what that is.
Don't know. Yeah.
Doesn't matter. Anywho, but I think this whole storyline, the whole purpose is to get the tag belts off of Damage Control, put it on Becky Lynch and Lita, and then use that to satisfy both the fans and Ronda Rousey. Ronda Rousey is she's the type of person that behind the scenes is going to get what she wants. Because, like, who's going to stop her? Her and Brock Lesnar, who are going to stop them from getting what they want. So Ronda Rousey wants to be in a tag team with Shayna Baszler, who's a real life, long time friend.
Yeah.
And to give her what she wants, they're creating this whole situation of the tag team titles passing over to Becky Lynch, where the fans get what they want, which has been Becky Lynch versus Ronda Rousey. They've been wanting that for years, and this is like the one way that I think they could deliver the goods on that is by putting this into a tag team title program. And so where does that leave Damage Control? I have no idea.
Well, I mean, it could even lead to a match, Billy, at WrestleMania, and like this is the thing. It will definitely lead to a match at WrestleMania, that's for sure. Maybe even more than one match. But there's the question, like, how does it all work out? So, to your point, I mean, Becky Lynch and Lita could win those championships on Raw this coming week. We do see Ronda Rousey and Shayna Baszler, who've kind of been over on SmackDown, like working to contend. It seems like working to contend for the tag championships. So I do feel like it'll be Becky and Lita versus Ronda and Shayna. And maybe you just have Damage Control of Io Sky and Dakota Kai in that match as a three-way match, So, or maybe they even add in another tag team, because on SmackDown, they've been doing some weird stuff with Natalya Neidhart or Natty Neidhart and Shotzi Blackheart, who's another wrestler, and then Tegan Knox, who's like another one who used to team with Shot. So like there's going to be a tag team match at WrestleMania, and I think it'll either be like a 3-way or a 4-way match of some sort for the championships. And then where does that leave Bayley at WrestleMania? I think that Bayley will have a one-on-one match, maybe with the one and only Trish Stratus, WWE Legends. They have a little bit of history going back to like last year with a confrontation. I'm going to pull up a picture of it or of them. But I just feel like they're putting all these pieces together, like with a month remaining to WrestleMania, moving a lot of parts around to like set things up for the matches that they do want. Because there's a lot that they need to like get in place if they want to have all those matches. Like you said, Billy, they need to get the championships off of Damage Control and kind of loop in and make sense of like why Lita and Becky are there.
Yeah, I totally agree. And just on a backstage note, Trish Stratus was backstage at the Montreal Smackdown or the Montreal show. She was backstage, and she was supposed to have an appearance that, for whatever reason, they changed what they were going to do, and so she ended up not coming out and being part of the whole storyline with Damage Control and Lita and Becky. And so she was present. She was there. So we'll see if maybe they'll rework it in a future week coming up. Yeah.
And again, like even just this picture from the YouTube, if you're watching the video version, early on, like right when Damage Control formed, I believe in August, we did see a random segment in Canada between Trish Stratus and Damage Control, and Bianca Belair was there to back up Trish Stratus and everything. And so maybe they have a callback to that. Also, Trish Stratus and Lita are best friends, so that could easily be worked out. So I feel like if anything, Billy, like Trish Stratus needs to show up on Raw as somehow in relation to this tag match, if she's going to show up at all, or else like Bayley just doesn't have a match at WrestleMania, which doesn't make sense. Or, you know, the other match that people have been talking about, by the way, is Trish, Lita, and Becky Lynch versus Bayley, Dakota Kai, and Io Sky, the team of Damage Control. So lots of potential options of where this could go, basically.
Yeah, I think they're gonna do like you said, the tag titles on one night, and then Bayley versus Trish or some other legend or somebody on the other night, so that Bayley can run interference for Damage Control in some sort of way and be involved in that match without having to come back out on the same night. So I think they'll split those two up on the two different nights. But if Trish versus Bayley happens, here's another dream match that'll hold true for what I've been talking about all podcasts, and that's that this era right now, or this time frame that we're at, is very much aimed at the smart marks and the hardcore fans, the longtime fans,
like me.
Yeah, like you. Damn, and yeah, that's. I'm
so happy for y'all. I really am.
I mean, and the thing that's cool about it, Amanda, like in relation to people like you, is that if like the wrestling fans are really excited, like, oh my gosh, this is amazing, then we'll like bring you in and tell you about it. And then it's like there's the thing that's interesting, and I actually thought of like sending this to you, is like there's so much background with each of these characters. Like Lita is a character who I think you'd love, just like seeing the history.
She read is like very regal. Like her coming out, I was just like, okay, this is important. Like she seemed like to have a lot of gravitas, so that makes sense.
That's interesting. That is really interesting. And yeah, there's a lot there. And so look, each time that you come on the Wrestling RHAPup, we're gonna pull you into the web of wrestling fandom.
I've learned so much. I'm getting deeper and deeper.
You are, and you're not gonna be able to escape it. Kind of. Now I'm going back in my. Oh gosh.
Are you gonna kidnap me? Is this a kidnapping plot?
Well,
no comment.
WrestleMania is very much like Bruce Lee movies are for martial arts. WrestleMania is for pro wrestling fans, and that it's what draws in a lot of new fans. Like you ask most martial artists, like, what made you want to be a martial artist? Most of them will say seeing a Bruce Lee movie. Most of them will say that. Same thing with pro wrestling fans. They'll say, what made you want to become a pro wrestling fan? I saw WrestleMania, whatever number, and it pulled me in. It made me a fan. So it makes sense. It makes sense that year in and year out, that WrestleMania will be not only where you get all the mainstream celebrities and all the dream matches, all the legends come out. It just makes sense. And I think it's been that way since the very first WrestleMania, when they had Muhammad Ali and Liberace and Tommy Lasorda and all these mainstreamers pulling people in. That's what pulled me in.
Damn. And you know what? Let me just say this, Billy. WWE should hire you as an ambassador of their work. So there's that. Also, Amanda, we're not going to kidnap you. And WrestleMania 39 will be your year. I feel like that this will be the year that you are like, oh my gosh, I need to become a wrestling fan, bring the family along, get everyone on board, and maybe you'll be at WrestleMania 40. Who knows?
Oh my goodness.
Wouldn't that
be something else?
Never too late. And and I have to say, as we wrap up the highlights of the week, again, thank you all for talking this through. We have one more segment to come. And you know what? I'm not even gonna take a commercial break. I'm going to get us into a very fun segment. This is The Shoot, where we, as commentators of this wrestling thing, talk about any unplanned, unscripted, real-life occurrence within the world of wrestling. Today, we're doing something a little bit different because season 44 of, I know, a favorite show of all of us, Survivor on CBS, is coming out. Billy, I referenced you were on Survivor back in the day, Survivor Cook Islands, possibly the best season, possibly the best character from the best season of the show. Bite me, people, bite me. But I will say, you know, one thing that I was thinking about this week, and I'm so thankful that you all are indulging me as part of this, is which WWE wrestlers would be great Survivor players, or specifically which WWE characters would be great Survivor players. So I'd love to talk with you all and get your thoughts and ideas of a few WWE wrestlers who would be great out on that island. And also, we started to talk about this a little early on, but like who they might be the most like, bonus points for that. And, finally, after we go through that list, I kind of want to pick one of them to choose as our winner pick. That's what Survivor fans do. It's all about the winner picks. So I kind of want to just dive in. But thinking about this, I actually want to go to you first, Billy. I know you're prepared. You have your list. Yeah. You have your full list. You have your honorable mentions. And maybe we just start with you going through your list as the season's professional when it comes to wrestling, but also Survivor. You're the one person who's done both of these things. Most of us have done.
I can't say I've done maybe the one person on this panel, but Survivor has a very, very, very rich history of pro wrestlers on Survivor, starting with Bubba Sampson, who used to play Romeo Bliss in WCW. He was in Vanuatu, so he was actually the first.
Yes.
And then I came along, and then of course Ashley Massaro and John Morrison, aka John Hennigan. So we have a long history of pro wrestlers on Survivor. And my list is going to be based kind of from that angle.
I love that.
Yeah, who's I'm gonna give like my list, and each one I'm gonna give like a little reason why. I'm gonna start with my top five. My top five is number 5 is Shotzi Blackheart, because it is already proven from previous pro wrestlers on Survivor that the hardcore mentality translates well to being on Survivor. And so I feel like she's a hardcore wrestler. Like, she loves to hit people with trash can lids and do ladder matches and such. And I just feel like that hardcore mentality will help her handle starving, dehydrating, being weather beaten, bug eaten, mentally exhausted, physically drained. She'll just power through being a hardcore wrestler.
Damn. So you know what? That's my And just to like pause with each of these a little bit, like Shotzi, because I'm gonna pull up each of the images as you describe, folks. Like Shotzi, bright green hair, the tattoos and everything. She has that hardcore approach. Amanda, I have to ask you this. So Shotzi stands out. Like, she stands out big time. Mm-hmm. And I worry for her in the context of Survivor that this might not play that well for her in particular, but I don't know. I don't know if there's anything you're getting. From the
I mean, I don't know anything about like Shotzi was not in the clips that we watched this week, and she wasn't in the package the last time I was on either. So I don't have any like extended knowledge. Like, I agree with like Billy saying that like she has like the toughness and the physicality and the intensity. And what I'll counter with though is I think that like, especially female players on Survivor who come out with that hard, like tend to be really visible early on and can get targeted for that. I can think of lots of like strong female players who were like initially targeted on their tribe. So that could be a liability for her, like given what Billy has described and, just the intensity of her look, but she, seems badass. We'd love to see it.
I gotta say, let's keep the train rolling. Let's keep the train rolling. Billy, who's number 4?
All right, number 4, I have Ricochet, and for all the reasons that John Morrison did so well on Survivor, that he's this incredibly, ridiculously awesome athlete who has the charisma to be likable, like the mayor of Slamtown himself. I feel like they're basically the same guy on Survivor. So if one worked, I just feel the other one will work as well. And Survivor has no problem putting on the same kind of person over and over again, like they did with the guys with the overalls over and over again and so on.
And you know what? I'll say, Billy, like just to like comment on that before even getting to number 3 from your list. Like Ricochet is also a big fan of Big Brother. Like Mari and I have noticed that. We've seen him tweeting about the show. So he brings like that social strategy stuff. I wouldn't be surprised if he's a big fan of Survivor too, because he's athletic. He could do the flips and the stuff like that. But also he's a very like nice, likable person. He's low key, not too big of a personality. So I don't know. I could see him kind of thriving here. I'm curious I want to keep like pounding through this list because we'll go through your top 5 list, your honorable mentions, and then I'm just curious what else, whoever else comes to mind for me, Amanda, Ari, but Billy, give us number 3. This is magic.
Number 3 is Shayna Baszler.
Oh,
Shayna, you gotta have a Survivor villain. You gotta have one. And so Shayna Baszler is the quintessential villain, and her mentality is she will cut your throat, break your arm, destroy your dreams, and enjoy doing it. She will not feel it one iota in her conscience. But then also she's very analytical because she's such a technical ground grappler that when I go to her YouTube videos and she analyzes MMA fights and so forth, I could see like how she would break down the game and have a very strategic approach to playing Survivor. And it wouldn't just be blunt force trauma with her. It would be very much a surgical approach to playing Survivor.
Yes. And you know what? One thing I thought of immediately when you mentioned Shayna Baszler was her biting the necks of opponents. I have to say, Ari, any thoughts on Shayna Baszler as a Survivor player? How do you think she'd do?
She'd be like I don't know.
She looks super intense.
Like I'm just like, you know what it is? You know what threw me off? I'm looking at the photo and I'm just imagining that same exact look like on a beach or on the island and like trying to take any kind of strategy talk seriously from that intense eyeshadow. But I mean, look,
they don't have makeup on the island.
That is true.
All right.
That's not makeup.
No, that's not tattooed. I'm looking at other pictures of her, and she doesn't always have that.
Tattooed eyes.
Shayna Baszler's a character of few words.
She's a character of few words. I think she might get the purple edit, so to speak. Unfortunately,
purple eyeshadow edit.
Yeah, but I think she'll be around because people would be afraid of voting her out for a while. Okay, Billy. So that's number 3. We have number 2, number 1, honorable mentions. What's going on here?
My number 2 is actually really my 1B.
Oh,
okay.
1B.
So 1B because I feel like my number 1s are tied. They're tied. Okay. And so the first one I mentioned is The Miz. The Miz has so much experience on reality TV that he would just own it because he knows what to do. He's been there so many times, from the real world to Dancing with the Stars to everything in between. It would be a fish in the ocean. He would, it'd be his natural environment, being on a reality competition. And he's charismatic on top of that.
Yeah, he seemed so. He was in the package of clips that I watched last time. I came on the Wrestling RHAPUp, and I know that he has like was it Real World or Road World?
Yeah, Real World.
That was where he broke out from. I mean, he's super polished, like very much a character. Like I think that he would be an amazing one to see win. I think it's like a high degree of difficulty, but it would be great to watch, like maybe in a Boston Rob archetype, perhaps. That's a great pick.
Yeah, and you know what? I will say Miz, an icon of reality TV. And I will say, Billy, your picks are very similar to what came to mind for me. Well, before we get
to
your number,
casting, I have to say. He would be great casting. Yes.
He would be great casting. Billy, I have to go. So there's number 1, obviously. But before we get to number 1, I would love if you could just like throw out your honorable mentions.
Yes.
I got 2, 1 man and 1 woman.
Okay.
The man would be Xavier Woods, who's a gamer. So putting him in a game would be, again, another thing of putting a fish in the ocean. He should do well. And Alexa Bliss would be my woman because her size would have her so underestimated. Nobody would ever figure out she's this monster athlete and that she's a person who could change, who's a chameleon. She could reinvent herself over and over again and become whatever she needs to be within the context of Survivor. Much like Poverty, who never played the same way twice.
And you know what? I will say, like Alexa Bliss, what's her nickname? Like 5 feet of fury, 5 feet of fury. So she's tiny. Xavier Woods, a gamer. I thought of him too. Alexa crossed my mind, but Xavier Woods really did because he is a gamer. And like immediately, I think the easy comparison for Xavier Woods is like Davey Rickenbacker, like like just having that gamer spirit, bringing the fun, being a great character to watch, hopefully gets the win. Like you would be rooting for him along the way. So damn, those are 2 awesome honorable mentions. And again, great casting. Like I feel like this needs to be a reality. We need to make this season happen.
Yeah, you still have Probst's number, Billy? You should give him a call.
Yeah. To see,
I think Jeff Probst is still going to therapy from my tribal council.
What? What?
Exactly.
What?
You broke
Brown
him.
tribe? What? Yeah, that man. Look, I think he was really caffeinated that day, Billy. There was a lot.
Wow, is that the origin story of Jeff becoming totally unhinged? When
yes.
Yes, it is.
He's never been the same, Billy. He's
like, I thought I knew what was going on, but Billy surprised me, and I don't know. And then here he is starting a podcast now, doing all that other stuff that he does. Billy, okay, let's get to number 1. Number 1 on the list. Build it up. Build the attention. 1A, if you will.
1A. This man is all right. The preference I'll say that it is very common on Survivor every season that most of the players judge a book by its cover. So this guy would blindside everybody because they would look at him, and if he never mentions he's a pro wrestler, they would look at him and think, oh, this guy is another Billy. He's just another beer belly with a beard. And they wouldn't think much of him. And that guy is Kevin Owens. Kevin Owens would show up and wreck the place. He would, with his athleticism, with his charisma, his ability to tell a story, his ability to be very convincing, would just, I would feel sorry for the other survivors. I'd be like, hey,
so have we had a winner like Kevin Owens? Like, what winner do you think is most in this archetype?
Physically speaking, you would say like Chris Doherty was a and in a way you could also say even Richard Hatch. But I would say Richard Hatch would not be as good a strategist as Kevin Owens.
No, definitely not.
And same thing with Chris Doherty, and I love them both, and especially Chris. Physically, we would never have seen anybody like him to where he looked the way he does, and then and he's as athletic as he is. We would never. That's why it would be a total blindside.
That's true. That is very true. And I think the thing I appreciate most about Kevin Owens is like not only would it be surprising that he's a wrestler when he's out on Survivor, but it also is surprising that he's like, just based on what he's wearing. Like, yes, he has like the arm tape, the wrist tape, but he's not giving traditional wrestler. Like that's Kevin Owens' thing. He's like the everyman wearing the t-shirts. Like that's what it's all about. You got to wear a t-shirt. And as long as he keeps the t-shirt, they'll know.
And Kevin Owens is Canadian, where the $1 million would be $1,363,000.
Oh, he is a solid winner pick.
No, yes. Canadians having a great run on Survivor since they've been cast. So that's a great point too. I have a question for the panel because you all know these characters much more than I do. Bianca Belair, how would she do on Survivor? Because she had that sparkle, and I was describing she's got like the halo, the smile, the glint in her eye. I feel like that's like Spradlin-esque, maybe like like she has that sheen on her, those like eyes that you can get lost in. do we think that she could do well on Survivor?
Yes. So let's get into this. Let's get into some of the other people who weren't on Billy's list who could be really great. Bianca Belair was like the first person I thought of who would be really good on Survivor. She's so athletic. She's so charismatic. I don't think she could win unless she like wins immunities left and right. And she could win every immunity the entire season, honestly, with how athletic she is. She is the strong est, the tough est, the EST of WWE, the best est, you know, the best, the strategic est, you know? So I'm just saying, I think that she'd have to win her way to the end because it would be too obvious. But I'm pulling for her. I'm pulling for her. Yes, but
90% of Survivor, 90% of Survivor is who you're surrounded by, and you know there's only a few, very, very few elite players that you could say they would win most seasons. Like it doesn't matter who they're surrounded by. I think with Bianca Belair, initially she would be so strong that her, especially in this three tribe format that exists in modern Survivor, that she would win her way to the merge.
Ari,
and then from there,
God, I love it, and I think that that's kind of like the key. From there she would be able to kind of to. Do you think she'd make it far past the merge? She might be the merge boot.
If she doesn't win that first one, she's out. But if she wins that first one and she has a chance to work her charm and be and work her way into the majority alliance, then she has a shot. But she will always be the physical threat of the group, much like Alicia Calloway was in Survivor Australian Outback.
But could she get a couple people under her spell though, who would like make the mistake of going to the end with her?
In old school Survivor, definitely yes. And modern Survivor, where everybody knows the game, that's a big ask.
I think you're right. I think you're right about that.
I mean, especially in a WWE wrestler Survivor, I have some questions about exactly how she would do. Like, I think she'd do really well with WWE wrestlers. Now, the super fans, she might be the first boot, unfortunately. But I want to say, Ari, anyone you want to put out there as a good survivor, a good potential survivor?
There's so many good options, but I'm going to upset Dr. Amanda here. We were talking about the grotesque nature of Paul Heyman. But who is better equipped for a vile game like Survivor than what Billy was talking about? It's who you surround yourself with. Who does he surround himself with? That man has a broken neck and 2 championships around it. So you tell me. I think the man has the gift of gab. He knows how to manipulate, and I think we're looking at a 0-vote finalist.
You think he's gonna? No, because you can't let Paul Heyman get to the end because
I see him as like a David Sampson, like who gets out on the beach, like immediately like starts bossing people around, alienates his tribe. Like I can definitely see him suffering that kind of fate.
You know what? His personality probably lends more to like season 1 of Survivor. I feel like nowadays he's a little too like, all right, bro, like, what are you doing?
Look, I have to say, I think in line with all this, there's a lot of other people we could name. I want to give a shout out to this man, Grayson Waller, or Matty Wahlberg. He was on Survivor Australia. Just self-explanatory. Put him out there. He's in WWE NXT, and like, yeah, put him out there. Put him out there. Why not? He could run circles around people because, I mean, if they haven't watched Survivor Australia, like they're not going to know that he has that skill. He's going to have that returning player thing. It's going to basically be like fans versus favorites, except he's the favorite and the rest of them are like the fans. He clinches the win.
Everybody, I'm watching Survivor Australia this season because like the universe broke me down by saying how great it is. And every player on Survivor Australia, I feel like could pick me up and snap me in 2. Like they're all so strong and ripped. Like the level of physicality on the Australian cast is like totally blows away what we see in the US.
Yes.
The US. The U.S. version is pretty much geared towards the average Joe, average Jane, compared to the Australian version, which I think is trying to be pro-Survivor.
Yeah, it's not like, oh, they got up off the couch. Like, that's not what they're
Paul
going
Heyman. He's not making it very far on
No,
Australian
no.
Survivor.
No.
Paul Heyman got up off the couch. Look at him trying to cross that balance beam. He won't give up. He won't give up. Oh
With a
gosh.
broken freaking neck.
The broken freaking. Oh my gosh. So okay, let's just like quickly rapid fire because we can be here for.
All right, rapid fire. I'll give you one. I like
Yeah.
R-Truth. Give me a man who has worked for any company for 30 years and is a 24/7 champion. R-Truth. Give it to me.
R-Truth would be amazing here. Anyone else? Anyone else we want to shout out as part of
Rhea Ripley, commanding a stable of I don't know, subs.
Okay.
Already has an alliance built in.
Oh my god. Okay, Ari, more. Keep going, Ari. Keep going.
Looking at the WWE roster, Asuka just laughs. Great alliance mate. Perfect.
There we go. Dominick Mysterio.
Deep cut. Y'all ready? Deep cut. Ryan Popola. Boom.
Ryan Popola, baby.
Ooh.
Okay, let me just say, Ryan Popola, icon of RHAP as a podcast and of WWE's The Bump. Look, I see him getting the win. He's my winner. He's my new winner pick. I don't even know who else I said was my winner pick. But yeah, so we've got that, and long list of people. I think Asuka's a solid one. Brock Lesnar is one who's just like challenge beast out. So there's a lot of them that come up. Anyone else, Amanda, that you would want to mention as honorable mentions for Survivor in the wrestling sense?
Well, I mean, this isn't like I want to say Austin Theory gives like strong Russell Hantz vibes to me. I think that like the kind of like trash talking, like overconfidence, like I can definitely see him being like a fun villain to watch, but somebody who would never ever win in front of a jury.
We'll take that. And you know what? I think that this is a pretty solid list. I'm trying to figure out if there's anyone else we really missed. But you know what? If there are people we missed, it's okay. If you're listening and you're like, oh my gosh, I'm a Survivor fan. I know that these people would be really great on Survivor. Hit us up. Let us know. You could of course subscribe to Rob has what's this called? The Wrestling RHAPUp on Rob as a podcast at robhasawebsite.com/wrestling feed. And just to kind of get some plugs in before I turn to all of you for plugs, I'll also say that you could join the conversation about the Wrestling RHAPUp, hashtag Wrestling RHAPUp on social media, on Twitter especially. Follow us at Wrestling RHAPUp on social media, and I'll give more plugs in a little bit, but just want to turn to you all for plugs. And Amanda, let me begin with you in terms of just some of your plugs, wrapping us up on this podcast.
Well, thank you. It's been so wonderful to be here. I really feel like I've been the presence of wrestling luminaries who have like given me all of their knowledge and rich background. I've learned so much. And I'd love for people to follow me on Twitter to keep up with everything that I'm doing. I'm Dr. Amanda R. That's Dr. Amanda R. And right now I'm covering a few different shows on post-show recaps. I'm covering Party Down, which has come back to Stars after 12 years for a revival. Really funny sitcom starring Adam Scott, Jane Litch, Meg Mullally. If you haven't seen Party Down, definitely you can binge the first 2 seasons on Hulu. You can subscribe to Stars and watch season 3. I'm covering that with Emily Fox over on Post Show Recaps, so you can find me there. I'm also with Josh Wigler and Dr. Melissa. We are doing the Severance Media Club. So we're waiting for Severance season 2, and we're talking about lots of different fun adjacent media. In the meantime, our first outing is covering the television show Devs, which is very dark and interesting. So we're doing that monthly over at Post Show Recaps. And I'm going to be part of the Succession coverage team. So HBO's Succession, if you are a fan of that, we are leading into its 4th and final season in March, which is now basically. And so that's coming up later in the month of March. And because now we just got this announcement that the 4th season is going to be the final season, where the Post Show Recaps team is recapping 1 episode a day to get us binging season 1, 2, and 3 in the lead up to the final season 4. I'm not going to be doing all of those, but I'm going to be doing some of those. So keep up with everything I'm doing on Twitter, where I'm at Dr. Amanda R.
Look, I'll go over to Ari. Thank you, Amanda. As always, pleasure to have you here. Ari, any plugs? Where can the people find you?
You know, you can find me on Twitter at Ari Ferrari. I'm going to be spending my week listening to all of Dr. Amanda's podcasts.
Seriously.
Go tune in.
Yeah, look at that. We love it to the point. Some people are booked and busy. Other people are booked and busy listening to other people being booked and busy. I can relate to that, Ari. Billy, where can the people find you?
On all social media, it's at Real Billy Garcia. And also follow my band, Forsakken, spelled with 2 Ks. Not 3.
Mm-hmm. Well, that's a
thank
good
you
thing.
for that.
Yeah, thank you for clarifying that. Anything else you want to plug really quickly?
You know what? I want to give a shout out to my boy Cowboy. I'm sure you guys know who I'm talking about.
Mm-hmm.
He's living in Vietnam right now. He's total cool dude. I've spent when he was here in the United States. I stayed at his place for a while. He stayed at my place for a while. So we're like brothers from different mothers. So hello, Cowboy. And since we're doing a wrestling podcast, I got to give a shout out to Forsakken's former lead singer. The lead singer in our first two albums currently works at the WWE in the archive section. So hello, Brittany Diaz. And
she's definitely watching. That's for sure.
Yeah. So I got to give her the shout out.
Oh my gosh. Yeah. So there we go. But I will say, look, just wrapping us up here. You can find me, Matt Scotchy W, on all of the different platforms. Of course, I mentioned where you can find the Wrestling RHAPUp. You could also join the Job Has a Squadcast Facebook group. Just message me, message at Wrestling RHAPUp on Twitter, and we'll get you into the official, unofficial group of wrestling fans within this RHAP community. And of course, become a patron of Rob Has a Podcast and of supporting this show basically at robhasawebsite.com/Patreon. And of course, wherever you're listening, leave us those 5 stars, leave a review, show the love, let people know that you're about the wrestling and about Amanda and Ari and Billy doing this. And I'll be back again next week, as always, with Mari to cover more of this stuff. Very curious to hear your thoughts on this. But as I wrap up, I'm going to steal Mari's closing line, which is that wrestling is for everybody, but not all wrestling is for everyone. Goodbye, everybody.
Throw 'em up, lay it down just like Matt and Mari. Wrestling RHAPUp's gonna make it sorry. Feeling like The Rock, cause I'm driving in Ferraris. And we coming every week and it's feeling like a party. Will Ric Flair, showing out like Bianca Belair, Best podcast, flush it in the air, From the rings and we win it, don't care, No cap. Throw 'em up, lay it down just like Matt and Mari. Wrestling RHAPUp's gonna make it sorry. Feeling like The Rock, cause I'm driving in Ferraris. And we coming every week and it's feeling like a party.